Welcome everybody to Nothing Less Than Extraordinary. I have a wonderful gentleman. I can't wait that he's here. We finally made a date. He was in Australia and all this time difference, and he's on the move and all of that. To me, having my kids and having to forget, and then he is so gracious. We finally made it and nailed it down. Thank you, universe. Thank you, Andre. So I love it. So it's Andre Hoffman. So I'm pronouncing the first name probably not right. So please correct me. Say it again.
Endre Hoffmann. Perfect.
Endre Hoffman. So let me do a little bio. Thank you so much for being on my show. I've been so excited to meet you because you're a fabulous soul and you are exactly what I need for my podcast. So having you here is a huge honor.
Thanks very much. It's great to finally make it happen.
Yes, finally. So a little bio from Andre. So Andre helps a business owner as well as leader who experience a lot of inner struggle, self-doubt, feeling exhausted from working hard and being plagued by negative thinking. He actually helped remove the internal conflict and the struggle from the mind to achieve confidence and peace within. He has helped groups and done group programs or one-on-one transformation, which is recommended by his clients to their authentic leader, to finding their authentic leaders and naturally high self-worth. So most of his clients enjoy emotional freedom as well as multiply their impact in business and life as they regain a new self-image by tapping into their true genuineness as well as the purpose. He is extremely a passionate person about rapid psychological shifts. So welcome. I am so happy to have you here. We're going to dive more a little bit, but what I really love about your story that really caught my interest is how you actually started in this field as a child, going through struggling with regards to self-worth. So can you share us a little bit about your story and then how you got to being the doctor of self-worth today?
Absolutely. And I'll try and minimize this because I could talk through this for a few days. But yes, I felt disconnected from my dad. That was the start for me. I didn't feel that he loves me or cares about me. I felt more of an ignorance. And
Mhm,
and I didn't know that probably he didn't have love for himself. And
mhm,
from that place of lack of self-worth, lack of uh, confidence, that how it translated to me. I didn't know what to do with this father and son relationship. I was pretty angry most of my
yeah,
childhood because I demanded
mhm,
love, attention, and I never got it. Then, the mind is so creative. It
mhm,
always comes up with new strategies to meet its needs.
yeah,
And somewhere around maybe age 7 or 8, I said, well, probably I'm just not good enough. I need to bring in results and trophies, and then maybe he
mm,
will change. And
yeah,
I went about becoming a type A personality,
mm,
very competitive. I went to run marathons. I did climb ice. Age 13, I think we won the national championship in basketball with the team. It was in
wow,
Hungary, by the way. I was born in
yeah,
Hungary.
yeah,
So I did all these crazy things. And in the meantime, I was very shy, insecure, you know,
mm-hmm.
afraid to ask girls out. It was terrible. Sometimes I remember I postponed to make a phone call to this girl for
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 months. And then I said, probably she wouldn't answer the phone or she wouldn't want to meet me. And I gave up on it. I'm like, looking back, I just missed so much because
Mm-hmm.
of my lack of congruency, lack of, feeling confident enough that I am worthy person to meet, spend time with. So this has reflected then pretty much every area of life.
Yeah.
Uh, It
Can I
was
interrupt you really quickly? Because I don't want
fast.
to forget the rest of your story because it's so good. But what you just said was so powerful because I was in discussion with my boyfriend today, and it's not just men, but also for women with regards to the lack of self-worth. Like what you had mentioned, like 3 months waiting to make a phone call to a girl because you think she's not going to answer anyway. It's more prevalent than we think it is. It's crazy, like I look at it and I go, there are so many people that I know. There are amazing people, but that ability to not be able to express it, it's quite something. So, but sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. We'll come back to that because I want to remember how can we help other people who are going through this address that challenge, which you were able to overcome. So we'll continue with your life story and we'll come back to that.
Well, thanks, Ryan. And I want to then do a bit of a loop with that because
Yeah.
I believe 70-80% of the population on this planet
Yeah.
has some extent
Yeah.
of feeling not good enough, feeling
Yeah.
not up to it, feeling not performing up to the standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you a specific my example.
Mm-hmm.
Schools
Yeah.
are absolutely putting in these limitations into people's heads. And I was expected to get good grades. And I wanted to be loved and supported at home. It
Yeah.
didn't work, but I had the best grades.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, then people are seeing, as the teachers are pointing it out, they are seeing why it's 90%, why it's 80%, why it's 70%. They're always focusing on what they could not get right.
Right.
And this, I think this is the key concept that most people are grappling with. I want to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Can't make a mistake.
No.
And that kills the business at that point. And maybe it kills a relationship, which from in my case never actually started off. And it wasn't one, it was many.
Yeah.
But going back to my story is then I was so disconnected from myself, like
Yeah.
my dad, who was full of stress, anxiety, fear, or he brought it home. Now that was the problem. He was this short-fused man
Yeah.
who could not control himself. So he built his own kingdom, and it was either my way or some say down here, the highway. You just get out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to live with those rules
Yeah.
because, 15-year-old, what would I do out on the street? So then what is the mind doing? Oh, I need to conform,
Mm-hmm.
comply
Mm-hmm.
to be connected to feel loved.
Yeah.
Well, love didn't really work, but at least I felt safer
Yeah.
because that's what drives most people. Like we tend to have these, let's say, not Buddha level consciousness parents,
Mm-hmm.
and then we try to feel loved by these people who have not done the work on themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, stop me anytime if you want to ask anything, but I'm happy to move on. That when it came to starting a life and a career, because I believed in the school system, they were telling me I'll be happy
Mm-hmm.
if I get the good grades, then I will climb the career ladder and I will have a house and a car and all of these objects.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up working in banking, but it wasn't that simple. I didn't know who I am or what I want. This is
Yeah.
exactly the conversation in my head at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to myself, well, if I don't know who I am and what I want, is it better for me to have money or not?
Mm-hmm.
So I've done a research and I said, well, in an hour, I found the the segment or the sector where they have the highest wages. This is
Yeah.
how I decided.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely driven by money. No idea what I wanted. I started working in banking and it was a good adventure. I kind of loved it, but it wasn't me. It
Mm-hmm.
took me 4 or 5 years to realize that I will not be able to have 3 week holidays per year and then keep going back to an office and live in a gray, mediocre life.
Mm-hmm.
That just cannot be me.
Mm-hmm.
So when those thoughts started to come into my mind. I said to myself, because I lived in Hungary at the time, Hungary had this communist 5-year national plan. I'm not too sure if you heard about that. Imagine a country that is revolving around a 5-year vision, a 5-year plan.
Okay.
And it got me because I said, well, I still don't know what I want. I still don't know who I am. I might as well then always change in every 5 years. So I will have more experience than those people who worked in the bank for the 40 years and they dropped that at the end. So I said, I'll try and compress a lot of adventures that maybe I will find out who I am and what I want. So then I fell in love with a girl, and then I moved to Ireland at first. Dropped my banking career. It was a big drop because I ended up working in a production line, packing. I think it was rice and different type of foods. And there I was inspired by the Lord of the Rings in the movies. That was
I
the
love
only
it.
movie I saw. And then my partner and I decided, well, let's go to New Zealand. So I went back. I had a small little flat and I rented it out. I said, I'm gone. And for the next 7 years, I lived in New Zealand. The rejection patterns kept going on. Like my partner, who I wanted to start a life with, she basically got married with someone else to make it easier on immigration. So I was left alone in New Zealand, the end of the world at that time. And I was like, what am I going to do here? And I thought, well, I just wanted a passport that is much more well recognized than the Hungarian one. I said, well, it's a beautiful country. There's so many opportunities here. I'm going to live here and make a living. And I had a lot of adventures. I started that paragliding. I started to climb mountains, and I ended up in the corporate environment. But again, my patterns just slapping in the face. I wasn't recognized, was not again promoted, although I think I was one of the best ones in a contact center. I worked for GE. And I said to myself, something's off. I need to move on. And I said then, to find the answers, I said, probably I need to turn to the east. Maybe I need to go to monasteries and seeking spiritual gurus and maybe experience the world and even greater standard. And I started to travel, and I set up my life to work for 9 months. And for 3 months, I was either fired because I requested 3-month holidays, or they let me go unpaid and I came back. So then I traveled Southeast Asia and a couple of other countries. And I used traveling as a self-reflection tool. And I was triggered a lot of places. And I thought, well, if this is okay for these people, then probably there is something in me that is holding me back, or that the resistance comes from. And I started to realize there's certain ways, values, and certain patterns of thinking that I am almost defined by. And I was journaling through these trips. Probably that will become a book one day. But I've learned a lot, not enough to break out of my lack of self-worth patterns. But then after 7 years, I said, well, let's visit again Europe. I reconnected with family and dad. My dad was the same. I said, well, there wasn't much point coming back. But then I was caught up with the idea that I need to become free. I need to have my own life. And I started 2 network marketing businesses. That failed because lack of self-worth hit me again in the face. So I could not build the business I wished to have. There was this certain, I think they call it glass ceiling. I was banging my head against it over and over again, and it collapsed. I thought I was actually financially free for a year. I thought I made it. Then it collapsed. I can't believe it. I'm back again. And then we came to Australia because I had my child, one child. The second one was born here. My wife came pregnant. So, and again, I fell in here 10 years ago into a deep hole of working hard. That's a pattern from my family. I have to work hard, and my life is now about supporting these two children. I'm talking about the internal dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And that ran my life, and that ran the results.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to the point where I hated my job.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I started to have 2 month holidays, 2.5 each year, because I couldn't face it anymore. That I'm stuck. I hated the situation. Now I have even these two children to take care of. And I was even more of a victim this time. So life started to really crush me, more and more pressure. And within the next 5 years, my relationship with my wife got to the point where she said, well, let's just split up, because you're working 12-hour days, then you come home, you do this side hustle, you're telling us that you're going to break out of the job, you're not even making money, you're hardly sleeping, you almost caused accidents this week, plus on the same week when, you know, I try to connect with my kids, reading out bedtime stories. And I always allowed them to slap me in the face if I fell asleep. And that happened over and over again. So again, that bedtime story has become this terrible and sad slapping competition. And I said to myself, I can't believe I worked for 20 years to become the opposite of my dad. I'm exactly in the same situation. My kids don't connect with me. My wife hates me. I hate myself. I'm stuck in a job, and something needs to change. And that was the lowest point when I said, I don't care what it takes anymore. I don't care even how much it costs. But from this point, for the rest of my life, I will have one single goal. And that goal is to resolve my psychological problems of not getting results in life. And I think that's when I moved from sort of, because I did in the previous 10 years, I was saying to myself that I'm working on this. And I did work on this because I bought new books all the time. I went to the seminars of Anthony Robbins, John DeMartini, Brian Tracy, all of these wonderful people. But the group programs did not, unfortunately, resolve my specific limitations. And I walked on fire, like I did some really crazy things. But that did not, like it wasn't relevant to the problem that I was dealing with. And unfortunately, I spent over $100,000 on these things that didn't actually work. Probably more. And I said, well, I don't care. I'm not going to stop. And my wife said one time, she said, you got to really stop this because clearly it's not working. So why don't you just give up? And I said to her, you know, I'm never going to give up. I am happy to drop dead, die trying to resolve this. I don't care what it takes. And even if you leave me, I'm not going to stop. And I think at that point, when I had this immense pain and fear of losing them, I became finally 10 out of 10 committed. And then that was my single goal. And then at that point, I was able to work with a mindset specialist, was able to get into these dark places in my head and unlock my potential, unlock my own limitations. And from that point, the doctor of self-worth pretty much was born.
Okay, so tell me, that's an amazing story. Tell me about this, because your story resonate with so many people every day, working so hard, doing the same thing over and over again, finding themselves, they have nothing to show for. And then life just keeps crushing them further and further down. So what was it for you in your case? Like, what was the mental blockage, and what were some of the things that you did for yourself to free from living that life that you were trying to escape from, being like your dad, thinking you were going far away from being like him to turn out to be him? So I mean, this is such a powerful thing because everything when we talk about business and expanding, it starts with knowing who we are first, knowing ourselves. So for you in that struggle, in that darkest moment, what was going in this head? I'm sure many people are going to be able to relate to. What was the three crucial thing that was happening in your head that was holding back in terms of getting the result that you wanted?
Well, how to say, the mind is hypnotized at early age.
Mm-hmm,
So the criticism from my dad,
mm-hmm,
his voice was in my head. I didn't know.
mm-hmm,
The self beat up.
mm-hmm,
This is not working. This is not gonna work. I hate this. I focused on what I hated.
mm-hmm.
By default, consciousness creates what it puts its focus and energy on.
Yeah, yeah.
Then, of course, I never felt that I am good enough to even lead or inspire anyone
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because I never seen that happen. I mean, let me give you one more example because this tells it all.
Yeah.
Up to university, I was able to coast off and avoid any time when I would have had to do public speaking.
Mm-hmm,
I basically didn't go in that day,
mm-hmm.
making up all the excuses sick. And then there was this massive humiliation at university when eventually I ended up becoming, speaking in front of a larger group and it didn't go well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big block for me to even consider that I will have to share a message
Mm-hmm.
with a large number of people and I could again
Mm-hmm.
fail and blush and feel humiliated.
Mm-hmm.
So there was plenty. I had the hard working pattern
Mm-hmm.
because, I was driving trucks. I said, well, where can I make money and where will they leave me alone? Because I wouldn't be able to handle someone looking over my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So the truck here in Australia became my rolling university. I was listening to spiritual things and feeding the mind with something more positive.
Mm-hmm.
But of
That's
course, it
very
was not.
crucial, huh? That's very crucial about feeding your mind with something positive because when you're stuck in the loop, and I think I want to
Mm,
specify that to people, when you're stuck in the loop, you don't know, you do the same thing over and over again, you repeat the same pattern. And what I notice is that there's generational patterns. Some of those patterns doesn't even belong to us, but we define our self-worth from the behavior that was either exhibited by our parents, a person that is of influence to us, or from generation before us that we kind of take it on and we think that that's us. So by feeding it with something more positive, like you said, what our mind focus on, that's what it's going to really try to generate those same results to prove that what you're thinking is true because it's looking for evidence to conclude it. Like you for yourself is like, I am not worthy enough. I've never seen it in my own life to prove that I could be possibly any kind of a leader or an inspiration to anybody. So it's constantly looking for all of the negative thing where you were unsuccessful and then repeats it again. So I think that's amazing that you changed that internal dialogue by feeding it something more positive so that the subconscious can really focus on where it can start maneuvering and discovering something completely different. Yeah.
well, right. It did not actually work. I
Mm.
maybe I just opened the door ajar, but I want to demonstrate this. If you're listening to this, I still wore the glasses of I have to work until retirement, and I had multiple of these on.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I won't be able to run a business. I hated businesses because my dad
Yeah.
had been running a business and his life was a disgrace.
Yeah.
This man was neglecting his family. So imagine
Mhm,
stuck in a job. Career was for me the
mhm.
way opposite to my dad.
Yeah.
But that was the other trap.
Mhm.
Said, I can't do this. I can't really have a life when
Yeah.
I'm working 12-hour days.
Yeah.
So I think the big breakthrough was 4 or 5 years ago with a
Mhm,
mindset coach.
mhm,
I have to say, it was all good listening to all of those things, but I
mm,
want to point out one major thing that some of the audience could be stuck in. See, this subconscious mind, in the way to connect, as you said, to grandparents and parents, takes on their patterns of limitations. Because the best way to build rapport is to be like them. Then you make sure that you were loved, fed, and clothed and safe. But from my point of view, then you say, you're working on yourself now, you're buying the books, listening to the videos, you're on YouTube, thinking you are now changing your psychology. Well, it took me 10 years to realize
it's a slower process. So it's definitely,
you know what I realized? I'm sorry to say, it didn't work. Why it didn't work? Because that subconscious programming to meet its basic needs of feeling safe, loved, and connected to family is stronger than giving it up for uncertainty.
For sure.
So what happens when some people may be listening to a podcast, a book, or taking part in a seminar, walking on fire, the mind says, oh, this is great. What a great entertainment. Now I will execute what I know is safe. So it picks out, with the filters, it picks out everything that through the old programming is safe to do.
But your example about the glasses is a good idea, because I always say it's when people changes the lens that they wear, it's like almost like you start seeing, because that's what happened in my relationship as I worked on myself, as I become more self-aware, I almost start seeing my glasses as if somebody was rubbing on my glasses, where I can start seeing again. And then I would tell my ex-husband, I don't see the same lens anymore. So it's true. I was like, it's like I have a new pair of eyes. I don't see things the same way. The behavior that used to be toxic and not good to our relationship, I was able to see it through a different lens that it makes me realize this is not okay. Before I didn't know. I mean, it took a while. I mean, I had to do therapy and all of that. But for you, what worked for you was the mentalist. So what I want to kind of focus on there is, what was one or two things that the mentalist that working with you allowed to crack open that door for you?
Yes, what a good question. It was releasing these patterns of thinking one by one. Almost like cleansing the lens.
Exactly.
And then there was another reality behind it, which applies to all of us. Because if we have a hard-working pattern, we've seen that from childhood, and that's what you see around you, that's a natural thing to do. There's always another reality when you drop the belief. This is the belief that I have to do this. What if you don't have to? What if there is an easier way? What if you could become an expert at something that which is your own kingdom, a brand, but you wouldn't have that, but you need to kind of take those tiny steps. And if you want to quantify, for example, right, your realization when you started to see another reality there, it was that 1% that we can pretty much take in as information from outside. So imagine if you change that 1%, because that 1% was filtered by your beliefs, which is, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't public speak, I can't even run a business. If those are your filters, your mind is gathering evidence. Or even create the events that proves you're right.
And the imagination, like you said, our mind is meant to help protect us. It becomes so imaginative that it builds things that are not even real. And then that's the thing that I realized. Your mind is just doing its job. And when you listen to that internal psyche that you have and you start believing it's true, that's how you manifest it into your world. But it doesn't mean necessarily what your psyche is telling you is even the truth, because often it's telling you lies, but you buy into this, right? And that's the trap. And what you said that was really interesting is the fact that you mentioned, because I look at my brother-in-law, his belief is in order to make money is you have to work hard. And then my boyfriend is the type where money, you don't have to work so hard. You can still make a lot of money. So I look at the two discrepancy. I'm like, one brother's thinks he has to work extremely hard, and he is a really hard worker to make that money. And then I have my boyfriend is like, what is the lazy way to make fast money right away? And it's almost like it's a different energy and a different vibration where he feels like money can come to him very easily, and the other one thinks that money comes to him very difficult. In exchange, it has to be hard work. And I actually did the shift of it just most recently in the last year and a half, because I also grew up with my father, who is a really hard worker. And so that's all I know until I met my boyfriend. I was like, 1 second. So like he comes from a wealthier family, and for them is like wealth is like you don't have to work so hard. There's so many ways to attracting money where you don't have to exchange your effort and time for that. There's other strategy. And all of a sudden I'm like, I thought there was only one option. The only one option to make money was to sweat and tear and bleed. And here comes another person that tells me, no, there's an Aries way you can make money, and it doesn't have to be so difficult. I was like, what? And then when I started changing my perception and manifesting it differently, money started coming to me much more easier. And I was like, okay, so not everything that you grew up knowing, when you don't know any better, you think that is the only option that you have. But when in reality, there's so much more out there. So I thought that was a really neat one that you mentioned.
I love this example because obviously these two men have made a different choice. But then again, I want to bring you back to what is different between the two.
Yeah.
Probably their genetics is 99.9% the same, because we humans pretty much the same. This level of self-worth beliefs are completely different.
Yeah.
So in essence, you project into the world your beliefs that then bring you back the results.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is an exercise for you if you're watching or listening, that ask yourself, where are you lagging? Where are you not getting results? Because what you see is your beliefs played out in real life, like a painful mirror. And that's the root that needs to change. It's not pushing harder. It's not working harder. It's not climbing the corporate ladder that I know that would get you more money. But it probably is not the solution to the real problem, which we call the root of it. Whereas you could change the operating system in your mind, and you would not be running your life on Windows 95.
Yeah,
struggling.
I love that example. It's changing your programming, changing that root. Because when I work with women, when it comes to finding love, when we work at the reprogramming at the root of it, all of a sudden their vibration, their frequency, what they put out there, their level of confidence, their new pair of glasses is completely different. But when you're working on the surface, you know, why when you say listening to audios and stuff, it doesn't really work because it's on the surface. It hasn't really hit down deep inside of the root. But what I find that when I work with my clients, when I work down core deep with who are you? You ask that question. It seems like such a simple thing. Everybody's like, who am I? Of course I know who I am. But when you really ask the question and they have to put it down in paper, they can't answer that question. And so when you really tackle the root of the problem, changing the programming, then this raises that vibration. It raises your frequency, and what you put out in the world will be completely different, because how you interact with people, how you view the world is now see from a completely different lens. When you used to be so negative and you're attracting all of this hard work, Now this new lens, you see solution where you didn't see before. So people ask, well, how is it that working on myself and working on my root will bring me more abundance? Because you no longer interact with people from the same angle anymore. You're no longer attracting being a blockage to money and love and romance from that same angle. You're actually seeing something more solution, more opportunity to you. So I like that point.
Right, it's such powerful how you put it. Yes, you then unleash the new attraction field. They all talk about the law of attraction.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's working.
Mm-hmm.
It's working the way you operate.
Yeah. But it's unleashing that component of who they are too. It's helping them find their core of their essence. Once you know what your purpose, if you're able to help the person tap into their purpose and know the core of their existence, why they're put onto this earth, and they see it, they become like this superhero because they're so clear on their vision. They know now how to be that person, and they gain so much success because nothing comes and distract them on the way because they're so clear on their mission. And so everything's very much aligned. They attract the right type of partner for their business. They attract the right type of relationship to expand them even further. But it's getting to that level, which is hard work, but it's working on themselves and getting them to know more and more, seeing the eye from a different angle. It's huge. It's very, very powerful. I've never seen anything that works better.
It's so true. And I partially disagree with you because I do not think it's hard work. It's uncomfortable to
I agree.
Ask that question where one is starting to disidentify with, oh, my job or my name.
Yeah.
Because now you're really getting to the core of, well, what am I about? What am I here for?
Yeah.
And
you're right, because it's not that it's hard work. It's that it's putting into doing something that you're not used to, the uncomfortableness of it all. But it really doesn't have to be hard work. It's what do you tell yourself? If you tell yourself it's hard work, it will be hard work. But if you tell yourself it is something that is achievable and can be smooth, and I realized that I tested in most area of my life. When I start out a workout, when I start saying this workout is going to be difficult, it is sure damn going to be a difficult one. But if I say, you know what, I think I can do this and it's going to be a smooth one. And it's the same exercise that I do every single day. But because today I woke up on the right side of the bed and I said it was going to be a good one, it's an easy one. So you're definitely right. I give you 100% in agreement with that for sure.
And I want to crush maybe one more block for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That question is now, tell me who you are and what your goal or vision is or your purpose. Well, I didn't know. But I knew at least identified what's in the way.
Yeah.
And when you are starting to clear the clouds or the fog, it's evolving. Almost like I used to climb mountains. When you climb one peak towards, let's say, Everest, you have a wonderful view from that top. But you will see just another peak. You may not see Everest yet. But then you climb another one, and then you got clarity about the route, the path that you're going to take. And again, it's a work in progress, and I don't think there is an end to it, because your impact and consciousness has maybe no limit. Or what you have limit is your human life or your time allotted. So this would literally take you out of this, again, I have to get it right, school, mom, dad, don't make a mistake. Well, you just need to take the path one step at a time. And I think that's what you explained as well in another way, right? And that can then allow you to see more and more of what you want, of who you are. Getting clarity happens on the journey,
And isn't that
not up front.
Yeah, isn't that so true what you said, getting it that right? How many people I see, and even for myself, I am guilty of that, of getting it right. We've been so programmed to getting it right. We beat ourselves up every time we don't get it right. And there's like, as if we feel there's a defect with us when we don't get it right. And I love that point. And my hugest breakthrough with a lot of my clients is giving themselves that permission to not always be right all the time, to just be like a child again, explore, be curious, make mistake, learn from it. And so when they give themselves that permission, all of a sudden there's liberty, there's room to play, there's room for discovery, there's room to learn, there's room to grow. Because before it was just a restriction. There was no room to grow because there was no air, there was no space, there's nothing, they're just being suffocated. And the other thing that you mentioned with regards to purpose, it's true that is why, like for me, working with another coach who has already seen the higher peak. Before I used to be like, I can do it all myself. Like, I don't need another coach to, I hear the expression all the time, like, you need a coach. And I know in psychology, like when you're a psychologist, you need another psychologist for counseling your clients because you need that help. So like a coach they've done the work. So they see quickly through some stuff to be able to help you pinpoint. And for me, honestly, when I look at all of my investment, I'm not saying that some people don't get in the wrong path, but I've been fortunate on my journey that I have not invested in the wrong type of so for my coach, they actually allow me to fast track and shortcut certain stuff that I don't have to take 2-3 years because I'm a very impatient person. so so allowing to see somebody that is going to help you define what your purpose is. And when we say purpose, it's such a big word. It's a word you hear often. But what I always tell my client is just start with something that really makes your heart beats, like where you feel like, you're enthusiastic by it, whatever that is. It could be such a small thing, and purpose doesn't mean that it's one simple thing that defines every aspect of your life. Maybe your purpose right now might be just learning to be the best mother that you can possibly can, and from there, and you're going up to that other peak, and then you get a better glance, a better view, and then you learn something more and you get higher and higher, you expand. So your purpose changes. It's constantly morphing, it's constantly changing its landscape. But what I always say is go with what feels good to you. Like if your interests are in something that you've been dying to do, but you give yourself zero permission to explore, start with that. That's the area to start. Play with it. And then as you open one door, another door open. I don't know if that was your experience. It was for me, like trying to find my purpose. Now I found my purpose, which I am so obsessed with love that I found my purpose. And when you found your purpose, your spirit, your core knows it's in the right place. For the first time, for once, I don't have to search anymore. I feel like, oh my God, this is what I'm meant to do. And when you get that sensation, it's amazing. I'm sure you're nodding because you feel that too.
Yes, and I want to just add then, you don't need to push anymore. All
Mm-hmm.
you do, you show up each day and do what you love to do. And there's wonderful technology out there. There is VAs. You can delegate things that you do not want. I want to share two more things that I just want to reflect on what you said, and I think they are powerful concepts to understand. One is unconscious, because
Mm-hmm.
that was the name of this episode.
Yeah.
From unconsciousness, it's impossible to see the purpose
Yeah.
because there is the patterns in the way, the limitations, negative emotions. So when that work starts to happen, then comes this second stage, what I call best version,
Mm-hmm.
or reconnecting to self.
Yeah.
Or when that happens, automatically you will start to see more and more of, ah, I would love to do that. But now the negative language is not taking you out of the game. You actually allow your mind and your actions and your behavior to take action, which can be uncomfortable. But then the universe starts to work with you.
Yeah.
Events, information, people, opportunities start to slowly line up.
Yeah.
That's the work. And not $1 million. It's not going to drop into your lap. And that's not what I'm talking about. But this inner sense of purpose, this inner sense of direction, that's what it requires. But the other thing that came up when you said this, that of course, right, you have a mindset coach or a coach who has done the work and probably way ahead on the journey, and got the results. And that's the other thing, that if you're listening to this, you've got to have a look. Who is the person you are working with? Do they have results? Have they proven fast psychological breakthroughs or consistent results with clients? Because I don't want to waste your money.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, even later on the journey, when you have the right coach, or I'm always talking about mindset, because mindset is a big one where you can get stuck, he or she will point it out before you stuck again at a new level of thinking and results. By the time you would figure it out, it could take a year or two.
Yeah.
With the mindset coach, even if you see that coach, once a month or every 3 weeks, they will pick up on that limitation that you start to play out, because every stage of results and outcomes in your life is the result, because that's where your mindset is. That's how far you've grown. But that level is actually a barrier to your next level results. So I'm sorry to say, but you've got to, if you take your life seriously, or your business, or actually making progress in your life, you've got to budget it. And I'm talking about budgets to people now. Rent, food, maybe petrol, your car, straight away budget in your personal development with a mindset coach or group, or whatever works for you. Then make sure things change in your life. Don't keep going back there for years and hope for change.
Yeah.
Pick something that works.
Yeah.
And keep a budget in place, because this would be the most profitable investment for the rest of your life, as far as happiness, as far as results, as far as getting what you want in life.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, because what do we really want ultimately in our life to be existing on this earth? I always ask myself this: what do I want out of life when I'm no longer here, when I'm just dust? I want to know that I've actually did everything within my power to live at the best version of who I am that I can possibly be. And so the investment of working on yourself, on finding what really lifts you up, when you find that thing that really works for you, it don't feel like work. Like what you said, it just don't feel like work. It feels like, I was just telling my boyfriend, I can't believe I'm getting paid to coach people on love. I'm like, is this a joke? But because when you're so aligned, when you really is connected to you, what you're supposed to do on this world, then it just feels like it's so fitting. It works on its own. It doesn't mean that you can sit around and just wait till, money and everything fall. No, every day I work, I'm very disciplined. Every day I work, I start at 5, 6 in the morning. I do all of the work, but it doesn't feel like work, because it's part of my craft. I see it. It's part of my craft as it's building and it gets expanding. And I'm already just happy being where I am at the present moment right now. And that's what a lot of us forget. We're constantly chasing after the outcome. You reach one outcome, there's be other outcome. So I enjoy the journey now, because I have an amazing life as it is, rich or poor. Like right now, we are so perfectly good. but I want to be able to change so much more life. And whatever that comes as a result, it's just a bonus on the icing, really.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, what the picture that comes to me is to get to this stage in life where all you do is a natural expression of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more
Just
you,
in flow, doing what you love, that creates the results that you're looking for, and you can design how you spend your time. I do work a lot myself,
yeah,
but I do this from that level of excitement and passion that
exactly.
even if this episode is only listened to 10 or 20 people and
Mhm.
it changes or plants new seeds into two minds,
Yeah.
but those two minds, if they awake,
Mhm.
they could change thousands and millions of lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because imagine this guy called Steve Jobs, and I'm not saying he's lived the perfect life, but this guy was an orphan.
Mhm.
And look for how far he's got.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you have parents, then how far ahead are you
Mhm.
to do whatever it takes?
Yeah.
And it happens, always happens inside. I want to share that change is an inside job. Everything you start to see on the outside is just a reflection.
Yeah.
So don't hope for things to miraculously change. I know there are lotto winners or lottery winners.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's not sustainable. They
Mhm.
have not grown to hold on to it or even handle the pressure of all that money. And it's not really about money anyway.
Yeah. And I want to also pass a message to those who go, but if I'm the one that's creating my reality on the outside, like I don't want them to take it as like it's their fault. That's not what we're saying, because I've had clients who mention, "Oh my God, like if I'm manifesting what's in here out there, then like, and they start beating themselves up more." That's not what we're saying. What we're trying to tell you is that what you see in terms of a result in your reality, it's an unconscious thing that you don't know yourself that you're exhibiting. So by working on yourself little by little, that will change. But I don't want you to take it on your shoulder that you're completely responsible at 100% and beat yourself up. Just know there's something of your reality that's not working for you. And then to do the internal landscape will help change that outcome. It's all we're saying. We're not trying to beat you up, or, because I get a lot of people go, if my reality is what I'm manifesting, then there's got to be something wrong with me. And they start beating themselves up. No, by beating yourself up more, you're creating more of the negative energy. It's by giving yourself grace and permission to work on yourself and to slowly move forward is how your result on the outside will start changing. I also want to be able to highlight any kind of project that you have happening that you would like to share with our audience. I would love to hear that.
Before I do that, I really want to reflect on what you said
Okay.
because I heard you coming from love.
Yes.
I don't have that much love in me. I actually put that responsibility on people. So I'm
Mm.
not so popular, but I would say if you are dealing with
Yeah.
situations and
Mhm.
they are not serving you,
Mhm.
it's your responsibility,
Mhm.
even if it feels uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But the the trick or the key
Yeah.
is that unfortunately you creating your results because we are all creating it
Mhm.
from a place of unconsciousness. So
Yeah.
what you could do for yourself, and this is where your responsibility lies, is to seek help. Seek help that actually works, where people like Ryan or myself, probably in a good 1 hour discussion, were able to point out, hey, these are the 3 or 4 things that unfortunately you're doing to create those results.
Yeah.
And that is a big breakthrough itself. It's life changing because finally,
Mhm.
after times, decades of struggling, now you know
Yeah.
why you're doing what you're doing and how you're creating the lack of results that you would love to have. And
Yeah.
and that's one step I call awareness
Yeah.
to change. The second one, of course, there needs to be a correction in the mind or releasing whatever is in the way, but it's got to be done. And you know what? As you know, life will start to crush you. You can wait another 5, 10 years. Life is a big, bloody coaching session.
Until you take
And
action.
you can do it slowly and painfully.
Mhm.
But the bad news is you will not get back the opportunities that are right in front of you now.
Mhm.
They won't come back. You won't be able to rewind the time. They are lost. Why
Exactly.
they are lost? Because you have lenses in front of your eyes. I demonstrated this before, and you're filtering them out. And when you do the work, when you're able to overcome these limitations, then you will see how many opportunities you had 10, 15 years ago.
That you didn't
And I
see
think
before. They were
that
right
was the
in
most
front of you.
that was the most painful realization, that you can only take in 1%
Mhm.
of reality that is around you, and that 1% may not get you the results that you want. So what am I doing? Well, thanks for the question. I'll be traveling around for the next year or so, stopping around family or with the caravan and work from the most beautiful places. I have a group that is starting very soon. I need about 5 people. It's called Mastering the Inner Voice,
Mhm.
which will be a small group format. Other than that, I'm available for a chat and see if you're ready for the transformation, because it's not easy to work with me, to be honest. I'm always looking for only committed people to change,
Mhm.
because I always deliver results.
Yeah.
So I filter people out.
Mhm.
And I know that it is uncomfortable at times to commit. That's the most uncomfortable thing to do.
Mhm.
But that that makes all the difference, because
Ab
then the excuses start to fall away.
Mhm.
And at that point, as I say, I'm happy to have a chat with you. I've got social media pages,
They
hashtag Doctor
find
of
you.
Self-Worth.
Good. There you go.
You can
Hashtag.
easily find me. My website is under construction. I have massive IT challenges for 3 weeks now. I do have a book, and just drop me a message. I'll send it through, because web hosting problems, IT problems, links not working. There's a lot of things happening, and I will sort this out. But I'm happy to drop you my 10-page book, which is The Secrets to Uncover Your Authentic Self.
Love.
That's the name of my book, and I hope it will help you. There's a few exercises in there.
No, I can tell you for sure from talking with you that you definitely can make a huge difference, because some of the skill that you're using are the same skill that I'm using in my own different language, and they have major breakthrough. I have two of my clients that I'm working with recently, and we had just one session, and the shift has been so huge. I mean, they've seen so many other coach, and it's not to take away anything from other coach as well, but um to do that to do that, I've worked on myself. I get the coaching. I did. So my eye picks on thing. It listens to stuff that I would never before be able to detect. But to see the transformation in the clients after one session, one going through really tough childhood molestations and all of that, and another one is completely a blockage, a limitation, to allowing them to change, like you said, is to unlock that unconscious level and then to have the corrective so that they're wearing a different lens. All of a sudden, things start opening up for them. They don't see it the same way. So I know that what you have to offer for people is extremely valuable. So definitely check out Doctor of Self-Worth. Look for him. And I'm sure that you are going to find him extremely, very, very powerful. And what can I say? He's such a terrific human being who's done the work himself, gone through the changes, and is able to be of a model to you, but he teach it in a way that is so easy to understand. You break it in a simple term that I think it's going to be fantastic for those who are going to be working with you. So please reach out to do this because you just never know. Just do a discovery session with him and then see how that works out too. That it's just reach out, right? If it's speaking to you and you feel like that it's being called to, don't hesitate. Do that now because it's going to really transform your life. Definitely. I always end with a quote. I wanted to see if you have a quote or something. It could just be your own quote, something that really has served you in your lifetime, because I know you're a big heart individual, but something that you have done or follow rules in your life that has really changed, profoundly, deeply affect you, that you would like to share as a message of inspiration to those.
And this one is from my book. Your business and your life never outperforms the psychology and your mindset.
See, it's really big and powerful. It's very, very true. I love that.
Yes.
I wanted to say a huge thank you to you. You know how much I love and adore you. I am so excited it finally took place now, and I can actually be able to share this with the world as much as possible because your message is so powerful, but also from a space where it's a kind person who really wants to help other people. So that I'm very excited. So I hope that you guys find this episode extremely powerful and interesting, and definitely you want to check him out, Doctor of Self-Worth. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks. Bye.